or so, and because the hurricane had a big, thick
From 7 to 8, Irma has created a lot of tornadic activity and conditions that were very ripe for this to happen.
And even in spite of seeing this, we can tell you that Freeport, Bahamas, it really sort of dodged a bullet. It was in that northeastern quadrant of the hurricane, which means that it was on the dirty side. So some of this sort of spawned off from the outer bands of Irma. Let's check it out with our Betty Davis. She's out here to join us now. And Betty, as you look at these pictures, you know, it's hard to say that they dodged a bullet, but really, Freeport, Bahamas did not get smacked like the Florida Keys.
They did not. They did not bear the core of Hurricane Irma, but they did get some weather from the system. Make no mistake about that. In that video you just showed of that funnel cloud, a possible tornado in that area, and we've seen that same type of weather playing out here associated with those rain bands with Irma. I do want to talk about the winds and what we are now seeing out there, and it's difficult for us to gauge in some cases because a lot of the reporting stations are not reporting because the winds were so strong. They seem to have knocked a lot of these stations offline from Fort Lauderdale, our station out at MIA, Homestead as well. But we are getting in a couple of reports between Pompano Beach and also Hialeah. These are sustained winds. So winds are sustained 43 miles per hour. If you're listening, I hope things are going okay in your neighborhood. I know you can't wait to get outside and see what awaits, but you have to wait. You have to wait until tomorrow morning when the winds come down to a level where it's going to be safe for you to be out there getting out and about. Hialeah noting a southeast wind sustained at 47 miles per hour. There's another look at the wind speeds. As I mentioned, difficult for us to really gauge what's happening in a lot of places because there are no reports. So that's why we are relying on our reporters who are braving the elements to show us just how bad it is out there. Now, in the areas where the winds are still gusting to say 70 plus miles per hour, that is hurricane force. But we do think that's going to diminish around 8 o'clock tonight. Miami-Dade, we should be done with the hurricane force winds. Broward diminishing around 8 to 10 o'clock tonight. And then for Palm Beach County diminishing around midnight. But after that, now, even though the winds drop below, say, 70, we're still talking about the possibility for some tropical storm force winds for the rest of tonight. So I just want you to keep that in mind. This event is still going to be a gradual wind down, and it's not going to cut off like that. So that means tomorrow morning, that's when we're thinking the winds could drop below that 39 per hour threshold for the Keys, Broward, and all of Miami-Dade. All right, let's talk about the projected path of Irma. Of course, the core of it, that center passing over Naples as we speak. It's now a Category 2 hurricane with maximum sustained winds at 110 miles per hour, moving toward the north at 14 miles per hour. And it's going to continue its journey up the peninsula, sticking close to that west side of the Florida peninsula. We are noting that interaction of land with the core and the weakening of Irma, and as it's moving up toward Tampa, it is forecast to be a Category 1 hurricane. There will still be impacts here. There is the tornado threat for them. There is the rain. Remember, Irma's a large storm, and already the rains are spanning out over Florida, other than just here in South Florida. And there's that storm surge threat. I think areas around Clearwater, including Tampa Bay, there's a storm surge forecast of some 5 to 8 feet. So that onshore component of Irma is going to continue to be a problem, even on the other side of the peninsula where the Gulf of Mexico waters can pile on. So Irma continues its journey toward the north as we're going from Monday, Monday afternoon, I should say. It's just crossing over that Florida-Georgia border. And it does appear it's going to enter Georgia as a tropical storm. So here they are dealing with or gearing up for some tropical weather. And so we'll be tracking it as it moves across Georgia. I think school may be out tomorrow, actually, for some of the kids in the Atlanta metro area. That's a tidbit for you. A lot of you listening on the radio, perhaps you have families or friends who actually evacuated and went to Georgia to escape Irma. And now we see that a weaker form of Irma will be moving into Georgia by Monday, and then Tuesday we'll continue to track it as it moves over into western Tennessee, and then finally heads off into, say, the lower lakes area, or that moisture, what's left of it, coming into parts of the Ohio River Valley. But at that point, it will be mere remnants. But right now, it still is a hurricane, and it still is having a reach over our area. I'll let you know that the tornado watch, we're no longer under that, but up to the north, that's where we now find that watch from Tampa to Jacksonville. And here's a look at what's happening over our area in terms of the rain bands. What we have noticed now, notice that spin over near Naples, that the center of circulation, that is Irma, and still interacting with land. So right around that eye wall area, I'm sure the winds are just howling. And the winds, as we've said, have not diminished here, even though more and more we're noticing the heavier rain bands now lifting outside of our area. There's one stretching up from the western Atlantic up and over up into Palm Beach County, and some of that weather is getting into a place like Bimini. Now, this band was over Fort Lauderdale Beach. If you were watching us earlier, did you see or hear our Ross Palumbo out there? If you're listening on the radio, perhaps you could hear him in the elements, the howl of the wind driving the rain and picking up the sand. Just a mess out there. That's the rain band that Ross was caught up in. That rain band is now lifting away, and away is a good thing, because I think that was sort of the last of the really strong, intense rain bands. That one is lifting away. There still is some unsettled weather and some residual
high wall on the south side of this thing. They're still going to get water out.
Yeah, so the water is a little over 4 feet. The tide would be about so it's less than 2 feet at this point above what normally draw. Let me just confirm. Well, that was the
on the streets. We keep trying to implore you people. There is a reason that they have a curfew in effect. This is for your own personal safety. They want to make sure that everyone is okay. Actually, as I say it, here comes another car as we get to that point. We do have some boarded up businesses down here. Not all of them are taking those precautions, but you can actually see down here. This is where I was talking about earlier. We've actually seen people kind of coming and going here. It doesn't look like anything nefarious. These are people that are actually just almost look like they thought it was a normal rainstorm, and we're trying to take a little bit of shelter there. We do want to remind you guys, this is going to continue to pick up. This may not seem like much right now for those of us who've been down here in Florida rainy season, but it is going to continue to pick up. And as I say that, we can actually kind of hear that noise. That's something that we continue to find here out in this area. I don't know if it's partly the construction of some of these buildings, but there's kind of this eerie whistle, and all of the birds, if you turn around here, my photographer will show you up at the very top here, they've all nestled in. And it was kind of a very awkward scenario where when we first pulled up here maybe about 45 minutes ago, these things all like were flying around us, making lots of noise, and then they all perched up there, and then we had dead silence down here for a good 5 to 10 minutes. But the rain is picking up, as you guys can probably see. In fact, over here we're already seeing puddling. I'll remind you that we are in a very high area, so we only have to worry about the situation with, whether or not it rains off. We're going to stay safe throughout this entire thing. If you guys are concerned about us, do not worry. We know where we are right now. I also want to talk to you guys a little bit about what's going on here in Tampa right now. Before all this is going on, they were having these 12 on, 12 off shifts. Now emergency personnel have gotten to that point where all 24 hours on staff, they are ready on standby. But we do know that we're at a situation where we're going to be having those winds that are so strong that they cannot come to you. This is why you have to make sure that you're already prepared and hunkering down. We're going to send it back to you guys in the studio for now, though. Matthew Smith, ABC Action News.
Matthew, thank you so much. Want to go to a Facebook Live video. This is from Naples, Florida, near Marco Island, where the eye of the storm came ashore.
Facebook Live. Not sure who shot this, but a resident there did. Obviously, this is probably their home, shooting from inside where their lanai was, it looks like.
Yeah.
And it's still standing, which is a good sign.
We've been getting some pretty good Facebook Live videos out of that area, just giving you an idea of what it was like when this was coming on shore there in the southwest Florida area.
Yeah, it happened about 3:30, I think, is when the eye of the storm came on
that's
shore.
Correct. That's correct. But I'll tell you, the screen there is the screen in the lanai there is so wet that it's kind of hard to see out there what's going on. But some of the other videos that we saw just sheets and sheets of rain because the winds at that point were well in excess of 100 miles an hour. So some pretty dicey situation down there, and going to be for the next several hours for them, and then we're going to start to see the effects of it up here. Speaking of up north, taking you up north, we'll go live now to North Tampa, where ABC Action News' Chris Welch is there for us. Chris?
Yeah, Wendy, Tampa. I'm in North Tampa right now, where conditions really have been deteriorating slowly but surely over the last several hours. Really, within the last hour or so, we've started to see those gusts pick up. The rain has started falling a little bit harder. It's similar to what Matt was just describing as it comes and goes in waves. Take a look around us here. Blowing as these gusts come by. They have been coming in waves, but let me just give you a little perspective for where we are. Take a look behind me. That's West Waters Avenue there. We have seen cars coming and going. Of course, that is exactly what emergency officials telling people not to do. Don't be out there unless you absolutely need to be today. You know, we have been talking about people who have at the last minute decided to seek shelter. Those are the people. A lot of those we've met. In fact, today, I have to tell you, we are seeking refuge outside of a La Quinta Inn, of our hotel here. We've seen people, we've met people who've come and go here at the hotel today because, in fact, they did have cancellations. They kept a list of people who lived in the area who needed a room still. Maybe they didn't want to go to a shelter. Maybe they weren't in a mandatory evacuation area, but nonetheless, they still wanted to seek shelter. We met a few of those people here today, and there was one woman who lives nearby. She lives near a small lake. She has big trees in her yard. Her niece, in fact, said, look, we have a room open now at the hotel. We don't want to take any chances with these blowing trees. We don't want something to fall on your house. We're going to put you in a hotel here. So that's exactly what they're doing. They're hunkering down at the hotel, and that's what we're going to be doing here at the La Quinta Inn as this storm progresses. Wendy, Jameson.
All right, Chris, stay safe out there. Meantime, we want to go now to our Michael Paluska. He's in Southwest Florida, I believe in what area? Port Charlotte. Port Charlotte. And Michael, the last time we saw you, you were too close to those power lines, and it looks like the wind is picking up even more now.
Yeah, Wendy, it's really kicked up. We're getting the burst down here now of gusts about 80 miles per hour. That's about what we expect to possibly be sustained in the area where we are, depending on where this track goes, if there's any wobbler shifts. But it's been intense, to say the least. We still have power in this area where we're at right now, but we don't know how long that's going to last. This has been steady like this and then getting worse, as you can tell, over the past, I guess, 30 minutes or so. We haven't seen this intense of a wind coming into our area. We're in Port Charlotte, Charlotte County, and we've been driving around talking to people this whole, I guess, week almost leading up to this storm, and people were trying to figure out what they were going to do, and for good reason. Now we're seeing the effects of this storm. A lot of people went to shelters. A lot of people figured out a plan. Some of them evacuated. We have seen people out here, though, right now, at least in the past hour and a half or so, that were riding their bikes up the street. We haven't seen anybody so far. I mean, if you're going to venture out of your home and you don't have a safe place to duck into like we do, it's a bad idea to come out in this storm. It's been unreal, just unreal. And the thing that I say it's been unreal is that this is probably more intense than I felt last year when I was in Hermine and Tallahassee, at least with these gusts. And the fact that this is going to get worse and progressively worse throughout the night, and the fact that for Tampa and for our area that this is going to happen at night is terrifying. The winds are unbelievable. I mean, they've just been howling through this area. I'm trying to find different ways to describe them because it's such an eerie feeling to hear these winds and then to just look out and see that they are just tearing through these trees. a little ways off in the distance. We don't know what it is. We've been trying to figure out what it is, but we've been hearing what sounds like explosions. We're not sure if those are explosions or if those are roofs being peeled off or what those are, but definitely we've been hearing some loud noises just off behind us. And as you can tell, yeah, these gusts, they're pretty difficult. It's definitely hard to see what you're doing when you're getting pounded in the face with rain at however many miles per hour, but we do know we have recorded gusts in our area where we've been about 80 miles per hour. So we're going to be out here monitoring the situation, and we're going to be reporting as long as it's safe for us to report. I couldn't imagine doing this at night in pitch black, because we're able to see what's coming, we're able to see what's snapping. We have noticed that there is a line down, a lower line. It doesn't look like a power line down, but we have noticed a line down over there. So we're keeping a watch out on what's flying around us. Wendy, Jameson.
All right, Michael, thank you. Let's go a little further south from where you are, Michael, to a Facebook Live in Naples, from what I understand earlier. And this is, you can see
downtown Naples.
Yeah, downtown Naples, and the wind doesn't look so bad there right now, but there's some debris there, and it looks like some of the roadways there are starting to experience some light flooding too at the same time.
And obviously the lights are out flashing there, but I'm sure they've lost the electricity in that area as well. And we're now going to go north to Orlando, where it looks like they too are experiencing some winds. Yeah. But again, we still have, I guess the core of this, the eye of the storm is going to hit the middle of the state around 2 or 3 in the morning. So we have a lot of hours to get through before we see the strongest winds. So this is
and Orlando's
ominous out there.
Yeah, Orlando's getting it good there because they're in the northeast quadrant there,
right.
So they're kind of getting that wrap around there, and that's why it's blowing there worse than
but
it
it's
seemed
still
to be
the outer bands
and
not the eye.
Yeah, give it some time. Give it some time. Well,
Right.
shelters inside Hillsborough County right now are set up to address all kinds of different situations.
That's right. At Turkey Creek Middle School, they have a room actually set up for those with medical conditions so they can get some rest through this storm. ABC Action News reporter Rodney Dunnigan shows us more about this Hillsborough County shelter. Take a look.
Turkey Creek Middle School has been placed on lockdown. They want to ensure that nobody leaves this facility to ensure their safety. And something else interesting of note, they've actually put together a triage unit of sorts, a room that's specifically for those dealing with health and medical issues. They want to ensure that they have a bit of peace and quiet as they go through the next few hours.
It's pretty scary. I've been in storms before, but nothing like what this is supposed to be.
For those here, the small, quiet space, a bit of a break from what's to come. Turkey Creek Middle, a godsend for many now in the Plant City community as this storm draws near. The more than 300 packed-in classrooms, just a small percentage of the thousands across Hillsborough County seeking shelter. Families together, safe, praying for the best.
I'm afraid, I guess, that I might not have a house after, we live in mobile homes. It could be gone. We have nothing.
Staff members are continuing to monitor weather reports to ensure that everyone is in a safe location in this building when that storm does blow through. Back to you.
All right, Rodney, thank you. And two disabled people with no way to leave their Dade City mobile home on their own say they were stranded even though they did their part to get out.
That's right. Joseph Sanders and his roommate say that they called the EOC for 3 days straight, but were told due to their disabilities they would be moved to a nursing home or even a hospital.
Yeah, so that's when they called our Taking Action reporter Jackie Calloway when help never arrived. Jackie.
Well, Catherine and Joseph share the same mobile home at the South Fork Mobile Home Park in Dade City. They're in the evacuation zone. They're bedbound and on oxygen. Catherine is on the phone with us now. Hey, Catherine, we appreciate you joining us. We're working to get you some help out there. When did you start trying to call emergency management for help, and what were you told?
Well, actually, my doctor started calling Wednesday for us, trying to get us registered for special needs. And I started calling myself on Thursday, and I called several times trying to get it straightened out, and I kept getting assured that yes, I would be taken by ambulance. We would be taken to a nursing home or a hospital.
River, just to give you some idea of where we are, Bradenton, and the waves have gotten a
what I got there, Stephanie, because we're also having trouble hearing you, is that you're on the Manatee River in Bradenton, which, by the way, is a very storm surge prone area there. But obviously, you're very close to the Gulf of Mexico. And Stephanie, looks from here that your wind is coming out of the northeast, maybe. And with a northeast wind, that should be pushing the water out. Now, the water may be rising because the tide is your near high tide. May have been rising over the last hour or more. You're around high tide now, although I think it's starting to go down. Stephanie, can you hear me? That's exactly right. So eventually your winds are going to shift more westerly, and that's going to bring in some water. Now, I don't know if you can hear me well, Stephanie, but the good news is from a water rise standpoint, which may be bad news for some other folks inland, is so far the center is tracking inland. And if it tracks to the east of Tampa, you don't get the same strong push because we would expect it to be a weaker storm, and the angles aren't as favorable for a big push of water into Tampa Bay and the Manatee River. We're not 100% sure that that's going to happen yet, but it's trending that way. So, but yes, you're right. Yeah, go ahead, Stephanie.
I want to ask you more about that with
So Stephanie, we just have a really hard time hearing you. So we're going to go to Jim Cantore for a second. And if you could work on your mic because the weather is coming to you. Jim Cantore, take it away in Fort Myers or in Estero, just south of Fort Myers.
All right, Brian. Yeah, you can see what's going on here. Safe, show everybody here. Show what we're doing. We got to hardwire. This mic back to the camera because of the fact that we've just, the big. The piece on the bottom of the microphone that's used to transmit to you got wet, and I mean that's just what's going to happen in these things. Okay, so we're going back to the old-fashioned way, man, and just going into hardwire here. And hopefully this will stay with us. We got this taped up. I'm going to try and keep it as dry as I possibly can. But as you know, when you're out here and the winds are horizontal, but for the record, guys, this isn't a one-man band out here. Okay, we got people hustling all the time. It takes a lot of people to get this done, and they're out here humping it for me, so I really appreciate that. Guys, that's enough cable. That's enough, okay? Because anything more, it's going to blow around. Especially if we get a piece of debris out and through here. So get back into safety and through here. Again, guys, we're taking the heat of this eye wall right now, and collapsing or not, and we just had a gust of 88 miles an hour at Fort Myers International Airport. So if folks hadn't lost power yet, they're going to lose it. And one of the other things I have noticed, Brian, is some of the smaller landscape trees that may not have super root systems have come over here in the parking lot. And remember now, we are getting pounded with rainfall. So there's just a ton of rain coming down through here. Safe, I'm going to turn you around for 1 second. Just want to show this tree. All right, and then he's going to have to wipe the lens. But I just wanted to show you what I'm talking about. So we've got a couple little trees down, certainly. Here's another one back here as a result of all the water. So you got saturated grounds, and that's what happens. Even with gusts in minimal hurricane force, if you will, you still get issues with trees like that. So we've definitely got hammered here. I could when we were in break, if you will, or fixing the mic, we definitely could feel the winds gusting a lot higher. And I mean, it pushes you right off your feet. No question about that. Whew. Got a workout out through here. So this is why, again, guys, we want you to be in a sturdy building. This is why we've had 30,000 people, Brian, in Lee County follow the evacuation order. Great news indeed. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Jim, which direction is the wind coming from? Are you getting a more northward wind yet? Is it turning? Or not yet?
No, I can't tell here. I still think we're east.
I mean, you're right on the corner.
Maybe a little southeast, Brian, still.
Really? Still
Yeah.
southeast, really? I mean, in a disorganized eye, as you know, on a disorganized eye on the radar, it's really hard sometimes to actually tell where the center of the eye is, because we have returns actually in what is likely the circulation. It's not a cleared out eye, so it's tough to figure out the angle.
I'm looking at the palms, and the way that they're blowing is still roughly, from the east. So to me, there's nothing that's distinct in terms of the wind direction out here from what I've seen. I mean, it comes in sometimes, it swirls, but I think that's because we've got maybe eddies developing between these two buildings. Okay, these are big hotels, the Courtyard Marriott and the Residence Inn, and there may be a little bit more acceleration that has to come down through here, but you can definitely feel the little eddies that are within the eye wall itself, and sometimes you can see them too in the rain. I remember that in Katrina back when I was in Gulfport. You can just see these eddies just rolling through the flow. It's a pretty wild sight. Boy, this is definitely an absolute hammering of the rain. Obviously the eye wall is big in terms of wind, but it's also big in terms of rainfall. Yeah, so that combination of that rain, certainly the wind that gets these, is the kind of the end all, if you will, to some of these trees, especially the landscape stuff. Go ahead,
Jim, we're looking at the radar right here, and there's a little kind of fragment of the enhanced eye wall right over top of where you are. So I can see how your winds would be essentially east there. You're right at the northern, almost to 12 o'clock, maybe 11:30 of the eye. Looks like right now it's a little hard to make out on the radar, but now that I look at it, I can see. But you don't have long to go. It looks like the winds are drastically less just down the street in Bonita Springs. So, but obviously not there. Wow.
No, it's how I'm trying to. You know what I'm trying to do, Brian? Go around a little bit for maybe a little bit of a lighter sky. There isn't that. Okay, we don't have that yet. I mean, it's still raining so hard. It's almost like a blizzard in rain here. With literally whiteout conditions. Maybe my visibility is a 16th of a mile, but that is about it in terms of the visibility. So, Brian, in terms of what you're saying, do you think this is starting to accelerate, pick up a little bit?
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Jim. Say it again, please. Say it again.
Oh, no. I said, do you think we're seeing maybe the storm picking up, accelerating to the north a little bit?
Is it accelerating to the north? Yes, it's accelerating some to the north. It's going about 14 miles an hour now, and although it's not like speeding off, this isn't a situation where it's going to get on its horse and start running 25 or 30 miles an hour, as sometimes when these storms get picked up, they do. On the radar that you're looking at on your screen, there is where Jim Cantore is, kind of right under the I-75 sign there, and that's the eye wall right there. That's the eye is more or less like that. And as you see, it's not a clean eye because this storm has interacted with the land. Obviously, maybe one of the cell towers near Jim has gone down finally.
In the National Weather Service chat, they did say in North Naples, a spotter reported a cell phone tower fell near Pine Ridge.
Okay, we're just getting word here. A cell phone tower did fall in North Naples. Now, Jim is not too far from North Naples. Here's Naples. North Naples is up the road here. So all right, there you go. All right, Jim, so we found with the cell tower was lost just to your south. And your signal was interrupted there.
I heard that.
And it's a little shaky, but go ahead. We see you again. Go ahead.
Well, think about this, Brian. 10, 12 years ago, we wouldn't even been able to do this. There's no way you can have a huge satellite dish up with this kind of wind. So, modern technology, cell, has definitely allowed us to do that. The speed of the internet is our friend right through here. And I hope folks are watching us on the Local One app. Local Now app in Florida.
All right, Jim. All right, Jim Cantore, we'll go back to him as soon as we can get the signal up there. In his area, about 4 miles east-southeast of where he is, in this fragment of the eye wall here, reports of gusts over 100 miles an hour in Estero from a spotter out there. Ethan Schistler reported that into us here at the Weather Channel. So not surprising, and we had reports, we were talking earlier, that it was really quite amazing. The way we're getting Jim's signal is they send out multiple signals. It's like making multiple telephone calls at the same time on the cell phone system. And down to the north, or down to the south of where he is, a tower fell over. So no doubt that's part of it. So, all right, we'll get back to Jim in Estero. And also Stephanie up in Bradenton here as soon as we can. On the wider view, I just want to be sure anybody that's watching us is interested in this area, that those really strong winds are in this arc here. That arc is heading to the western suburbs of Fort Myers. Not that in the city.
With the front side of the storm, position yourself so that you're still facing into the wind on the back side of the storm. We weren't able to do that because of where we are right now in Naples and where we are just situated within Naples, and getting it hitting you from behind as you're trying to tell people what's going on is a little bit more difficult to task. So be safe.
Going in and out.
No.
So I'm going to have to toss it back.
Don't worry about it, Alex. Don't worry about it, Alex. I'll give you the advice. I'll send you an email just about how to deal with it when the storm comes from the backside. All right. So right now, if I can, I'd like to bring in Chad Myers if he's available. Is he?
Absolutely, Chris. What do you need, buddy?
All right, Chad. So we're dealing with the wind coming in the opposite direction now, right? As that big weather vane, the crane, is making very clear. But it's pretty intense what we're dealing with right now. So why don't you take us through what you see on the map?
Even though there's not truly an eye wall on the bottom side of this, there's not big severe thunderstorms on the back side of this storm where you are down here in Naples, there's still enough spin. There's still enough low pressure right at the center of this that you're going to have winds. And in fact, even today in Atlanta, our winds were 45 miles per hour, and we're hundreds of miles away. So if you're only 20 miles away, you're still going to get winds whether there's a significant severe
radio. What do you say to them about going back and starting the rebuilding and recovery process?
Well, in 2005, I was still living in Miami-Dade County, but I had a second home down here, and I remember the frustration.
Air back out here. So that will eventually push the water into your bay. And I want to give you an idea of what's happened to this water. Here's where we are now, up 5 feet. This is a 5-foot surge right at the tide gauge here in Naples. We were down 2.5 feet. So our surge so far is 7.5 feet from where we were, and we're still going up. I don't know where we stop, but Chris will keep watching it. Because if we get water in Naples downtown, that's what we're expecting right there in downtown. That would be that 10-foot surge, because that intersection you're showing now is about 10 feet above sea level.
All right, I'm keeping eyes up the street for you, Chad, and I'll let you know as I start to see any movement there at all. We can't get any closer to there, and I'm not going to send anybody down there. So let's take a break right now. And when we come back, we will take you to where Irma is headed, and we'll check in back here in Naples with where she's already been, and in Miami as well, because this storm gets you twice. Once when she comes in, and once on the back end when she seems to be already gone. So our coverage will continue right after this break.
I am totally blind. And Non-24 can throw my days and nights out of sync, keeping me from the things I love to do. Talk to your doctor. Call 844-214-2424.
T-Mobile's Unlimited now includes Netflix on Us. That's right, Netflix on Us. Get 4 unlimited lines for just $40 each, taxes and fees included. And now, Netflix included. So go ahead, binge on us. Another reason why T-Mobile is America's best unlimited network.
Here on Northwest 24th Street in Biscayne. This street flooded here. You see some people trying to walk down the road there, but not quite sure how deep this is. But in some places we know, not only in Britain, but in other parts of the city of Miami, 2 to 3 feet in some areas. So not a good idea to try to walk into, especially with down power lines. You have to consider all of them hot, so try to avoid them at all costs.
We also had some flooding pictures out of Fort Lauderdale to bring you some video our crews got in Fort Lauderdale. If we can roll that right here, this is just some of the storm pouring through. I mean, these whiteout conditions that would come in the heart of Fort Lauderdale and across all of South Florida as different wind gusts would pop up. We now know from the National Hurricane Center the highest wind gust, hurricane force in Miami-Dade, 99 miles an hour. Here in Broward and Fort Lauderdale, 86 miles an hour.
Let's check it out with our Todd Toggin, who is live now in Brickell. And we checked in with him earlier, and he had some flying debris. And Todd, if you can hear us, is this still happening?
I can. Yeah, in fact, shortly. Hey, you may want to come on under here. There's stuff coming off this building. Okay, be careful. Yeah, not long after we did that last live shot, you could hear a loud crack coming from the panorama building here. And then shortly after that, another couple of pieces of debris, and it looked like, again, the balcony railing. It was that aluminum railing that our car. I didn't see any glass with it this time. It was just a railing.
Todd, let us adjust your audio there. We need to get the audio up on your microphone there, and you're battling that squealing noise of a machine.
Yeah, we may want to turn your natural mic off and put on your hand stick. Okay, well, we're going to take a look at this building here. This is the panorama building that Todd was talking about, and some sort of railing failed from that. From the 41st floor, a railing from that building came crashing down on top of their minivan. If we can get Todd back now. Todd, I think your audio might be better. Okay. Are you there, Todd?
Yeah, we hope. Can you hear me now, Cal?
Yes, much better. Go ahead.
Okay. It looks like some emergency personnel have come down here to Brickell Avenue. I don't know in what capacity they're here. Hopefully someone's going to come down here and try and tell folks that are walking around right below the panoramic building that it's not safe to do so. As you saw earlier, be careful, there's stuff falling. I don't think they hear me. Earlier we got hit by a very large piece of debris inside our car, probably about 6 feet long. A piece of impact glass that is framed by aluminum that is clearly a balcony, and on that piece of debris that you see there, it hit flatly on our hood of our car and then skipped off, and on that aluminum you could see drawn with a magic marker or a Sharpie pen, 41st floor. So that came off of the panoramic building, off of the 41st floor, came flying down and crashed with a thud on top of our minivan and then skipped off, and that's where it landed, right there. In the street. Since then, we've seen at least 2 other pieces of debris come off of the building. You hear a loud crack, and then suddenly you'll start to see stuff floating down, and you really got to keep your eye on the building. We've got a spot now. We pulled our minivan into a parking lot nearby. We are under the hatch of that minivan so that we're protected. You can see there's a piece of that blue plastic that covers most of the glass. Most of these construction projects have that plastic covering the glass so it doesn't get marred or scratched, and so that is also flying around. Of course, that's not going to hurt anybody, but it's when the aluminum and the glass pieces come falling down, extremely dangerous. And I can only hope that people understand that this is not anything you should be taking lightly.
You know, Todd, I remember when I think it was the Four Seasons building and others that were going up right before 9/11. I mean, the downtown Miami just started getting so high, and then all of a sudden all the construction stopped and nobody wanted to be in these tall buildings anymore. And now we're looking at a building that just towers over the others. And we've already had a couple of construction incidents with flying debris just in the last 6 to 8 months or so on Brickell. And now.
And doesn't appear to be any damage or any problems with that. So my guess is that this was just still under the construction phase and was not properly secured enough for the type of winds that they received that high up on the 41st floor. So we've seen a lot of people coming over here and taking pictures of the debris. As I mentioned earlier, there was a gentleman that lived in a nearby building. He said that a piece of debris from the panorama had hit his balcony and done some damage to it. That's why he had come down and taken pictures on his phone, I'm assuming for insurance purposes, because he said that debris has been coming off of the building and hitting other buildings nearby.
Todd, I find it interesting from a weather condition standpoint that we last came to you, there was no rain, very little wind, but it looks to be some rain now. Are you getting any wind?
There's a piece right there. Do you see it?
Yes.
Oh! Oh, did you hear that?
No.
I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was another exact same piece that hit right over near the, I believe that's the Helm building. It's the Helm building, and it hit right near the sign. It was a large piece of aluminum and glass, exactly like the other piece that we saw.
Are you going to go
All right,
try
Bob,
to check it out, Todd?
I'll keep an eye. Come on.
There it is. There's the piece right there.
Well, that was the original one that hit your truck.
No, that's the piece that hit us. We're going to show you the other piece that just came down with a big crash. Huge piece. I'm about to say, I think it's the same thing. It's a balcony railing.
It's likely they look alike,
encased
yes,
with glass.
exactly.
Keep an eye on the. It hit just behind here, right behind the sign for this building.
It's a good thing you were telling those guys to avoid. Yes, it's a good thing you were telling those guys not to try to walk under this area here.
Where'd it hit? You see it? All right. And it did some damage to this building now. Do you see the piece, guys?
Yes, we can see it and how it cracked right through another balcony. Serious, serious damage.
Yes,
Todd, your reports are going to be.
That runs along. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the building. I know this is.
You definitely.
Guys, be careful. There's more coming off.
We want you to keep an eye and get the pictures, and we can help with the talking, Todd, because we're just saying so many people, they should not be standing there. It is not safe as they see this, but your video is going to be instant proof for insurance companies of what is really happening.
Hey, Lori, we just spoke to these two guys. They live in this building right here where this thing hit. They say that for about the past 2 hours, stuff has been flying off of Panorama. They say sheetrock and aluminum railings and pieces of glass have been coming. Let's get out of here, Bob, because obviously this is in the path. But let's go over to them because the wind obviously is taking it this direction. We don't want to be over there. These two gentlemen say that it's been happening for about the last 2 hours, and they say everything's coming off of the Panorama building, and that they're very well aware of it.
And the wind seems to be carrying it
Guys,
too, Todd.
Come here. What's your name?
Tony.
Tony? You live in this building?
Yeah, here in Plaza.
Right here. So you said, how long has this been going on?
The whole time. The debris's been falling from Panorama, I would say, since about 8 a.m.
Come on over here, so get under the sign a little bit, guys. I don't want you to get hurt. Since 8 o'clock this morning, you've seen debris. What type of stuff's falling off the building?
Pieces of sheetrock.
Right now in Naples as the backside of the storm, even though there's not a wall on the backside, it's plenty strong. The gusts we're getting are impressive, and you have the added consideration of storm surge and the added consideration to that of the weak points of leverage of all the structures and the trees that took all that force in the opposite direction. So now the way that they were leaning is getting buffeted by wind in the opposite direction. That can have a compounding effect. Makes it even more likely that you're going to have damage and extra debris in the debris field. So, Drew, hang tight there and just give me one sense. What are you hearing from people inside those shelters? Anything? Are people relatively okay? Are they dealing with the situation well? You're hearing anything at all?
Yeah, they're dealing with the situation fine. And right now, this is they're glad they're in a shelter, quite frankly. There were a lot of people ho-humming, wondering whether or not this was not going to be what it was. They are realizing now that this is the real deal. This is why they're in a shelter, and this is why we're staying out of harm's way. Chris, we'll keep our shot up as you continue to move along because the wind is impressive. It takes the breath out of me, and it takes the words out of my mouth, so we'll just show you the pictures.
Listen, I'm with you. I know from whence you speak. So, look, stay as safe as you can. You know how to do the job. I'll check back with you in a little bit. Stay in contact with the control room. Let us know what we need to know. Let's go right now to Brian Todd. He's in West Palm Beach. Okay, that's further south here in that Miami area on that eastern part of the state. They got hit plenty hard there. Let's check in with him now. Brian, what's the latest from where you are?
Well, Chris, the wind has not decreased in intensity at all. It is incredibly intense here. Hurricane-force winds have been going on for hours, and they've only been intensifying. We are in what they call the dirty end of the storm, the northeast quadrant, and the danger that we have here, in addition to the storm surge and the wind, is tornadic activity. Tornadoes have been kind of cropping up. The threats have been cropping up. We've been under warnings from the west, the north, the south, and from waterspouts that have been developing offshore. I mean, you can see how it's just buffeting me right now. I'm going to have our photojournalist David Brooks pan over. You can see some David's got to be steady by our producer here, David Shortell. There's been such intense wind here. You see those modern art sculptures there? That one on the far right, that cube, that just got lifted up and moved about 40 yards to where it is. That is what we're dealing with here, with some of the, almost tornado-like activity here and tornado threats. What I can also tell you, Chris, just got word from authorities here in Palm Beach County. Their sheriff has tweeted out a message of condolence because he has reported that 2 law enforcement officers in Hardy County, Florida, which is north of here, have died in some kind of a vehicle crash. So you've got 2 law enforcement officers who are being told by Palm Beach officials who have died in some kind of a vehicle crash north of here. The details are not great at the moment as to what happened to those 2 officers, but they were apparently in some kind of an evacuation zone when their vehicle crashed. So that's one thing that we can tell you. Another thing is, officials here have made about 40 plus arrests of people who have violated curfew. See just how intense the storm activity is here. At times, visibility has been almost nil behind us. We've got a construction site back there, and debris has been flying from that thing all day long. So about everything you see here that's not a building can be a potential projectile. These stanchions here from this traffic light have been wobbling for hours, as have these regular road signs over here, thinking that they may be uprooted. Storm surge is also going to be an issue. They're worried about more flooding on Flagler Drive here. That could come anytime. The storm surge hasn't been too bad in the last few hours, thankfully. That's something that they're watching very intensely here in West Palm Beach, Chris.
All right, Brian, very sobering news about those officers. Let us know if you get any details there. But, of course, the priority is on keeping yourself and your team safe. Those arrests, it's also upsetting. I mean, if it was just for curfew, that's one thing. But if there's more nefarious activity, a situation like this, when we're dealing with the worst, we really need the best out of everybody on the ground who's going through it and to pull together. That's what's going to make the storm survivable in the main. All right, let's take a break right now. Brian Todd, thank you very much. We'll check back with you. We have at CNN people everywhere this storm has been, is now, and where Irma will be going. Stay with CNN.
Tired of wrestling with seemingly impossible cleaning tasks? Using sprays in the bathroom can be
This eye wall is very intense. The part of the eye wall, the arc of the eye wall that's still there is by all measure, you know, I mean, gusting to over 100 miles an hour. I don't think there's any question about that. Jim, going back to what you were talking about with 92L and the flooding, there were just these neighborhoods that are fairly low-lying, suburban Fort Myers that were underwater for a long time. And the same thing was happening in Miami, by the way. And, you know, that system just sat there. That was 2 weeks ago. And so this eye wall is heading in those directions, the direction of those West Fort Myers neighborhoods. So, you know, we're fearful for what we're going to find when all this is done, because not only do you have the flooding problem, is you soak the ground like that, and then the trees are much more likely to fall. You know, you don't have the secure roots, right?
We actually saw that. I'm going to see how far I can get because I'm on the hard line in through here. Let's see. Oh, I got a palm frond here. But I wanted to show you exactly what you're talking about in terms of that, Brian, because when the rain, you know, when we got into the eye wall and the rain started coming down, it was pretty doggone windy. So, you know, once the wind started kicking in, all these little islands here are just absolutely soaked. So you can see, you know, especially some of these small trees, they've either been snapped or they've been pushed over. But from what I see, certainly out in the parking lot, you know, it's a few palm fronds. There's nothing big here except for some of these small landscape trees. Now, granted, I'm right here, okay? And that doesn't mean that walking a quarter of a mile, we're not going to find a stack of pine trees down, because basically 100 yards off to my left, there's a lot of pine trees over there. I can really smell those when we were getting into the height of the wind. But this is much different now. We've definitely gotten past the core of this, the eye wall of this, and where we could hardly stand up out through here. But wow, just an incredible sight when you look around. The visibility's come up too. Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
Jim, is your wind from the northeast now? You feeling northeast wind yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. So you're at about 10 o'clock now.
We're about 06, 07.
Yeah. So you're about 10 o'clock, Jim. Yep. On if you were looking at the eye as a clock, you're at about 10 o'clock.
Right.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly what we've got. Yes.
So now,
confirmed.
So now what's happening is, Sarah, is RSW, Southwest Regional reporting? Because I was wondering, because the eye wall is heading toward Southwest Regional Airport, which is the big airport now that serves the Fort Myers area. 85-mile-an-hour gusts. So the eye wall is now in the Fort Myers, Lehigh Acres area, you know, moving north of where you are.
Well, and I think that's fine with everybody here, at least in this part of Lee County, to be honest with you. You know, hopefully I'll get to talk to some of the folks that went through this thing in Germain's arena. Definitely, you know, hearing that wind howling outside. We had 5,000 people there, 30,000 in Lee County. So just the biggest evacuation ever in this county's history, 30,000 people in shelters. I couldn't believe that when I was talking to the Director of Emergency Management earlier. But what a great testament to how folks took this seriously. Now, Brian, we should remind everybody, even though look at this. We're in the eye. We're in the dirty eye right now. You can see virtually no wind. It's a breeze. It's a breeze out here right now. We should remind everybody that when we get on the west side, the wind that we do have, even though it may not be as strong, is going to potentially, you know, bring in that storm surge. So we're not out of the woods with that yet. You can keep an eye on that for us, certainly better. I don't know what you're seeing down at Marco. I don't know what you're seeing down in Naples in terms of storm surge with the backside of this, but perhaps you can give us a brief on that.
Yeah, so we have a report from Naples. We're getting that reading 3.5 feet above high tide. So in other words, 3.5 feet above normal dry ground, but we still have a northeast wind. Or maybe it's a kind of a north wind. So the expectation is that the storm surge is going to come in, you know, about 9 o'clock was the timing that we had based on the model timing. So we're not there yet. You know, we're not there with the west push that we're going to get.
Good.
And the other thing is, yeah, remember that once it does come northwest and then west, it's going to blow from the west for a long time because this storm is going to arc with Florida, right? So even once it's in North Florida, this is a huge circulation that's going to keep the west wind coming. Yeah.
What's up, guys?
Have I lost you, Jim?
Yep. Brian, look at this. Look at that. No. Look at this. We're putting a drone up.
Oh,
we may have missed it because of the overhang here. But yeah, we're putting a drone up. We're going to try and see what we can see, even when we're in this dirty eye, because the winds have lightened up so much at this point. So we're getting up in the air. Now, we're not going to be able to, because we don't have two paths, we're not going to be able to show you this, at least right now. But what we'll try and do is feed it back to you, okay? How are we doing with the winds, guys? Is it taking it? Is it taking it pretty good? All right. Well, be careful because, again, you're going to get some good gusts here. Don't let it go too far away. So, that kind of stuff certainly gives us the ability to get an idea of what happened around here. Because down in a hole like this where we're going live constantly, it's hard to obviously get a pretty good idea of what's going on. I'm telling you, the visibility right now, I can see a mile. I can see a mile down from where I am right now. The boat that we showed you earlier is still upright and looking good. I don't see any damage to any of the vehicles out here. This is obviously great news. I'm going to be honest with you. When this thing was 130, 140, and I thought we were going to take those kind of gusts, I'm thinking, man, these prawns are going to go right through all these windows. It's going to be like musical chairs out here with all these vehicles because, when the wind's that strong, it pushes the vehicles. The vehicle doesn't know that. It thinks it thinks somebody's breaking into the vehicle, and a lot of times you'll hear the alarm go off on the vehicle because of that. Because of the wind energy against some of those vehicles, but we don't have any of those going off out here. So that's obviously very, very great news.
Hey, Jim?
There's obviously some damage, Brian. I mean, there's obviously some damage. We gusted in near 90. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Jim, new report from Naples, now up to just under 4 feet above high tide. So this is over, not above normal water level. This is over the highest the tide normally gets. So 4 feet of storm surge inundation in Naples is the current reading. And Jim, you talked about the Germain Arena there, where so many people went to evacuate. Well, that's where the eye wall went.
Right. 5,000.
That's the eye wall went as you saw, and the really core of it went just west of there. So, so I'm sure they had a scary day in there because just the sound of that wind ripping outside like that on that big building. And, the higher up you go, the stronger the winds. So the top of that building was getting stronger winds than we were seeing there with you and with Mike Bettis down to the south.
And Brian, to be honest with you, I need to take a time to make sure everybody's straight on what I said here. Was I concerned about that roof? Yes, I was. I never, ever said that it was not a safe structure. Ever. Okay? All the people that are involved in emergency management know that building better than I do. They wouldn't have put people in there if it wasn't safe. All right? But when I see a building out in the middle, of an interstate, certainly shaped like that, that's essentially a hockey rink, okay? And I'm looking at winds at 140 miles per hour. That question kind of popped into my head, and I'm not the only one. So I want to make sure everybody knows that and everybody is clear on what I said. I never, ever, ever said it was not a safe structure. So I hope we are clear on that. I hope that's the end of this discussion. All right, guys, again, some light debris around through here. Our winds never got over 100 here. That is great news indeed, because think about it. When we woke up this morning, we started our coverage at 10 o'clock. We could have easily gotten wind gusts up to 140. They got those in Naples. We had 142 miles an hour where Bettis was reporting, 135 miles per hour, so a couple of 130-plus mile per hour wind gusts down there. Pretty incredible winds. Again, as this eye wall was just starting its collapsing phases. But I certainly like the way we've gotten in through here. But Brian, now we have to watch out for the surge. It's not over. The surge, as you mentioned, is still an issue, and it's coming up 4 feet plus right now, at least in Naples.
Yeah, so we have multiple things still going on, Jim. That's one. It's heading for 4 feet. It's just a tiny bit under 4 feet. Now, the other thing, Jim, is that 100 miles away from you over in Miami, the winds gusted over 130 miles an hour there as well.
Oh, my gosh.
So, that just tells you the extent of this. So even as the peak winds near the center come down, it's going to be slow for this whole vortex to come down in intensity as it moves north in the state. So, the hazards are still very, very high until for the next 2 days, I think, for a good part of the southeast.
Brian, you know, and you brought this point up earlier about the different types of tree species as you get into northern Florida, into southern Alabama, into Georgia as well. That is definitely something, you know, certainly that needs to be watched, because it's not like it's a quick passing thunderstorm with a 50, 60 mile per hour wind. Even though this is winding down a little bit quicker, there's still enough wind, don't you think, Brian, to get some damage all the way up toward Atlanta?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, this is a monstrous system. I mean, you know, this is just giant. If you think about the size of it, there's this tremendous amount of rotating wind that is already doing damage. We had pretty terrific damage in southeast Florida, in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. Not debilitating damage, but certainly a lot of things broken that are going to have to be fixed and cleaned up. And those winds, you know, that was more of a steady wind of a Category 1 type hurricane, strong tropical storm with these extreme gusts on occasion. And so that's what's moving north. Now, maybe a little bit weaker, but there's no stronger place in Florida than Miami and Fort Lauderdale. So if you're seeing damage there, and this is moving up the coast and moving throughout the state, you know, we definitely see this as a threat. Yeah, Jim.
Brian, I wanted to ask you something about we saw all the pictures in downtown Miami of that water. What is that going to do? Are you concerned about infrastructure issues or anything like that with that kind of water? And we know it was salt water. We had a big surge in Miami.
It was a big surge in Miami, which was well forecast that they would get that kind of surge. Well, it's happened before, and they've done very well with the infrastructure. Now they have a bay walk that Mike Seidel was showing that was coming apart, because it's a really wonderful thing. They put this wood walk that extends out over the bay, so you can really go a long way right along the water, and that got completely torn up. And this looks like salt water here. Now, normally when you see this kind of flooding down in this part of Miami, it's from when you get 10 inches of rain in a couple of hours. They go about their business when the water drains off, and the water does drain there reasonably quickly. In this case, it's not going to drain as quickly because the wind is still kind of blowing on shore. So they need to get the wind. As soon as the wind switches around, that's going to drain, because it's a gravity drainage system. So that water has to do one of two things. That's to soak into the ground, but everything there is paved, so it's not doing that. Or it's got to go down the sewers, and the sewers go out into Biscayne Bay. Well, if Biscayne Bay is elevated, those sewers aren't going to work efficiently. And only on Miami Beach and a couple of places are there pumps to actually counteract that. So, yeah, this was a terrific storm surge, and we're seeing more and more wind damage in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach corridor there, where 6 million people live. So, there's going to be an extended period of cleaning up, and we certainly haven't seen all the neighborhoods there. There's going to be more to see.
So is that like the ultimate case in point when we say don't pay attention to where the center is going to go? Because, I mean, we've said that. How many times did we say that? Because there's going to be impacts all over the state. And I think that is the perfect example of that, where initially, oh my gosh, 36 hours ago, it looked like the center was going to come toward Miami and Homestead, right? Now, even though it went to the west, we still had some very serious impacts, as Brian is describing.
Yeah, so, the storm surge forecasts, we'll see how the storm surge forecasts work out on the West Coast. That's yet to play out, because that's really not going to start. It's maybe starting in Marco Island right now, but it's going to not start out where we have good measurements of it here for another hour or two. But on the southeast coast, the storm surge forecast worked out very, very well. And it just goes to show you that the science of this is very advanced. We know that if the storm does a certain thing, that this is what the storm surge is going to do. We're looking at pictures right now of one of the construction cranes in Miami that buckled, and it doesn't look like it fell off the roof, but certainly a scary moment there. They have about 24 cranes there, maybe a few more than that, on buildings under construction. And buildings in Miami extend over 800 feet into the sky, so the winds were terrifically stronger. That 130-some mile-an-hour gust at Jackson Hospital was several stories up. I don't know if it was 10 or 12 stories up. Imagine, there's the drone. Look at the drone above Jim Cantore's location there in Estero. But I was saying, Jim, that up on those high-rises, this was a big test of the Miami building code with these high-rises. And we're going to be fascinated to see what you see in the drone there and see how things
come with me.
went.
Come with me. Hey, Brian, watch the cord. Watch the cord. Brian, come here. Shoot his monitor. Shoot his monitor. I want to show you what we're seeing on the drone, if that's possible. Wipe the lens off. Okay, this is maybe
Jim,
a quick look
seconds here, but real quick.
at what's going on. Yeah, so here you go. Here's what we're looking at. I can't see much damage at all here in terms of any roof damage, which is great news. Looking at the parking lot, looking at the top of our hotel here. I think all in all, this looks pretty good, at least at first look, at first glance.
Crashing, hit a wall. Right now, I need a miracle. Hurry now, I need a miracle.
The issues we care about can weigh on us.
I need
So lift the weight of caring by doing. Visit StateFarmsNeighborhoodofGood.com to volunteer in your community.
Make her day with just one touch.
Yes. All the houses on the street are without power. It took down 3 large electric lines.
Wow. And so you're just about a mile away from that now, sort of hunkered down, and you still have power at your location about a mile away from where these pictures were taken?
Exactly. I do still have power, although we've had several flickers as the wind picks up, but luckily we still have power.
And are there any trees around the location where you are now? Any big trees?
There are just one in the backyard. It's a fairly young tree, so I think that we are safe there.
Okay, you're at a good location. Melissa Cruz, thank you so much, and please be safe. And you can just see the power of this wind, and we're not even in the thick of this yet, and trees are getting toppled over. So, and then you've got that on top of the power lines that are above ground in this particular area. Yeah, power's going to go out.
Yeah, and it is concerning, as Jameson had mentioned earlier, that when this storm hits us, head on, and the winds are going to be much worse, it's going to be in the middle of the night, and it's going to be very dark out, and we're not going to see a tree in the middle of the road.
Right.
So that's
until you wake up in the morning. And
that's why you've got to stay inside.
Stay inside. Yeah, and there's a big curiosity factor because you're going to hear things outside. You're going to want to know what was that. But really, it's going to be when you wake up in the morning, the sun comes up, even though there's going to be some winds out there, even when the sun comes up tomorrow, and you're going to see some of the aftermath and some of the damage, you're going to be surprised.
Right,
you're going to see a lot of trees like that.
Right, and not to mention the live power lines that are so very dangerous,
Yeah, that's the next issue. You're going to see a lot of power lines down, too. A lot of folks moving here into the Bay Area, moving to Florida, have never been through this, and a lot of folks have never been through this, even though they've lived in Florida before.
Absolutely.
Power lines and trees are going to be down in a lot of places, so watch yourself out there.
Right. Well, before Hurricane Irma even hit, some teens in New Jersey went to work putting together hygiene kits to be sent to hurricane victims right here in Florida in the coming days. So sweet.
ABC Action News reporter Adam Walzer joins us now with more about their volunteer efforts. Adam.
That's right, Jameson. Teenagers from Hamilton, New Jersey went through Hurricane Sandy almost 4 years ago. Because they appreciated help from all over the country, they decided to start efforts early to help hurricane victims here in Florida. And they're reaching out now on social media to try to encourage others to assist in their effort as well. The group of friends collected money and supplies last week as they watched the storm approach. They spent today assembling care packages, which they'll be delivering to the American Red Cross to be shipped to the hardest hit hurricane victims in Florida next week to help them as they begin the recovery process. Now they're posting information on Facebook, YouTube, and other sites to try to get others involved in their effort. Michael's mom, who organized this, Lauren Oletta, shot this video of them at work a little while ago.
Hello, Florida. This is my son, Michael. Say hello.
Hello.
This is Anthony.
Hi.
This is Zach.
Hi.
And they would like to be known as the Hamilton heroes that are stuffing personal hygiene packages for the Floridians.
Kind of a long title there. Those 13-year-old boys hope to raise enough money and collect enough supplies to deliver 2 week. I have more information about their efforts posted on the Adam Wilson iTeam page. You can go there and check it out. Back to you guys.
Oh, what great boys. That's great. Thank you, Adam, for that story. So nice to see, because I know for a lot of folks, including myself, I evacuated pretty quickly,
Yeah.
and especially if you're going to a shelter, you have probably the clothes on your back, and that's about it.
A lot of times, yeah, and you realize, oh, I forgot to pack something when you get there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
thank
those
you
are
to
great.
those boys in New Jersey. Very sweet. Well, just in the last half hour, Pasco County asking people to stay inside, implementing a curfew that goes into place at 7 p.m.
ABC Action News reporter Lauren Rosella is live for us in Pasco County at the Emergency Operations Center. Lauren, what's the biggest concern out there?
The biggest concern, guys, is the winds that you can really see are picking up right now. And look, you can even see all of that water on the lens of the camera. That is because the rain is literally going sideways out here. We've been feeling some really strong gusts out here. So we're here at the Emergency Operations Center where these workers have been, just working tirelessly to, vet out this storm. They're all staying actually over here in the jail overnight. So they've got about a couple hundred cots set up out there. Now, the biggest thing they're saying now, after all that hard work inside, when 7 p.m. comes, they want you off the road. And they say, if you want to pop out for a second, it might be okay. But listen to what they say the biggest concern is.
What we don't want you to do is get in your car and drive around the neighborhood. That could be a dangerous thing because you may not get home before that next squall, that next line of the wind hits.
Okay, guys, back out here live. So what I asked, okay, so if you break this order and you do go outside during your car, what happens? Well, they say it's a misdemeanor, but again, it's not really a question of whether or not it's a misdemeanor. It's a question of your own safety. So as these winds come and start to pick up, we don't know when these heavy gusts are really going to start to blow in here into this area. We're feeling it intermittently. You want to make sure you are sheltering in place, that you stay in one place. Don't get in your car and drive around and try and kind of see what's out in the neighborhood. For now, reporting live in Pasco County, Lauren Rosella, ABC Action News.
Good advice. Thank you, Lauren. Well, shelters are full of people and pets, but actually one shelter in Hillsborough County became an impromptu pet shelter just because of the need.
Yeah, ABC Action News reporter Rodney Dunnigan is in Plant City at one shelter to tell us what happened.
For the past few hours, we've been telling you about the great work being done by the staff here at Turkey Creek Middle School to help so many people and so many families. More than 300 people seeking shelter here so far, but they are not forgetting those four-legged friends. And of course, many of those families thankful that their pets are being allowed inside also.
It is an extension of their family, and they didn't want to leave them behind. So it's a necessary service, and it's an honor to be able to do that for all of our families.
Families here thankful their pets allowed too. So far, the shelter here at Turkey Creek Middle housing 25 dogs and 6 cats. This wasn't initially a pet shelter, but the need was so great they opened it up. No doubt a sigh of relief for many of these families, looking for a piece of normalcy as they brace for what's to come.
We went to actually 5 other shelters, not knowing where you're going to go and stuff like that.
For now, this locker room will remain home for these animals as everyone here simply hopes for the best and that the storm rolls through without any serious damage. Back to you.
All right, Rodney, thank you. And just outside in Tampa, wind is starting to pick up.
ABC Action News reporter Chris Welch is near Waters in Dale Mabry with the latest conditions there. Chris?
Well, we're here in North Tampa. Just take a look around. I want to set the scene here. Really, for the last couple of hours, maybe within the last hour, it's really started to pick up. You started to see those winds blow just a little bit harder. The rains come down just a little bit harder. Take a look. You can see some of these palms blowing as those gusts come and go. If you look down, you can see puddles. You can see the wind has sort of really given you a little bit of a visual cue of what some of those gusts can do. Let me sort of show you where we are in reference to the city of Tampa. Behind me is West Waters Avenue. We've seen cars coming and going. Of course, emergency officials telling everyone stay inside at this point if you don't have to be out there. But I have to tell you, we are seeking shelter at a La Quinta Inn at a hotel here in North Tampa. So we have met people today who are coming here from their homes. They're not necessarily in those mandatory evacuation zones, but they live nearby. They say maybe they've seen lakes nearby that are near their houses. They don't want to take chances. They have trees in their yard that are swaying. They don't want to risk it, so they have sought shelter here. That's exactly what we're going to do tonight as we ride out the storm. Chris Welch, ABC Action News.
Chris, thank you. Tampa braces for Hurricane Irma, and obviously many residents worried what this storm will do.
ABC Action News reporter Matthew Smith is in Tampa with more on that.
It started slowly, but continues to intensify.
Kind of scary. I mean, this is the first.
Marceli Medina has never been through a hurricane. As Paul and Franz begin to sway in the parking lot of her hotel, she's starting to worry.
Trying to keep away, and I got stuck here in Tampa.
Medina packed up and came to Tampa from Lakeland. The storm shifted, and now, like so many others, she's stuck here to ride it out.
That's what it's about, unity in numbers.
For 90 years avoided this day, but I think our day has come.
Tampa's mayor is making it clear residents need to be ready. And part of the reason that curfew has been enacted, not just for the winds, but because on the backside, he said he's expecting mass power outages.
I don't really understand what to do. We were told that we needed water. We went to the store. There was no water.
This woman made the decision not to hop on a cruise to head to Cuba earlier this week. Unfortunately for her, she couldn't get back home before the storm hit.
I have had 6 plane cancellations.
But the good news, at least in this location, someone brought their therapy dog. And so far, he's doing his job. People here are staying calm. In Tampa, Matthew Smith, ABC Action News.
Meantime, Duke Energy is reporting a total of 45,000 customers across the state of Florida dealing with power loss just at this hour. But the storm has not hit their most populated service area in Pinellas County.
ABC Action News Taking Action reporter Jackie Calloway was able to get Duke on the line, and she joins us now. Jackie?
Yeah, we've got some new numbers in for you. We understand that a total of 14,000 TECO customers in the Bay Area without power, 13,000 Duke Energy customers, a total of 2.7 million Floridians right now without power. Anna Gibbs is with Duke Energy. Anna, thank you for joining us. Does that sound about accurate to you? 13,000 Duke Energy customers without power in Tampa Bay?
Well, so we have probably at this point a little bit more than that. For example, in Pinellas County, we have about 17,000 customers. And just based on your station's coverage area, I would say that we're, as every moment goes by, we're getting a little bit higher and higher. And of course, as we go throughout this evening, our prediction is that our forecast is that we'll have about 1 million out by the time the storm's over. And that's throughout the state, of course.
So many people out there asking, how long will it be out? How long will it be out? A lot of people thinking it's going to be a week. You and I were talking yesterday, and you said not necessarily. What can people expect?
That is absolutely correct. So we are asking that people be prepared for power to be out for a week. But, of course, we are definitely hoping to restore sooner than that. And some of the things that we didn't talk about yesterday is once the storm passes, one of the first things you're going to see are basically pickup trucks that are going to be coming through your neighborhoods. And we don't want people to panic and think the pickup trucks are coming through and leaving you behind. The pickup trucks are assessing the damage, and they're calling back to our dispatch and letting them know what kind of materials they need to fix the damage. So that's what you're probably going to see first before you see the big, those big bucket trucks rolling in. So just to get an idea of what you're going to see tomorrow.
You guys have mobilized 8,000 workers to come in after the dangerous portion of the winds and rain subside. Won't there in many cases be people who will be able to get power back much sooner than a week?
Absolutely. So we are hoping that we can definitely get power back on sooner than a week. And so it really has to do with, it depends what kind of damage or what kind of problem there is that's causing the power that's out. For example, if it's a fuse, we can get that back on pretty quickly. However, if it is something like a power pole that has to be replaced, that takes several hours. And of course, it's important to remember that we do have to give priority, of course, to hospitals, emergency responders such as 911 call centers or law enforcement officers. So we definitely have a priority list that we have to go through just to make sure that those essential services can continue to run, and we have to get power back to them first.
One thing I haven't heard is what's the breaking point, so to speak? Like, what kind of winds do we have to be seeing for the power lines to start snapping, or more of the lines going down than the poles snapping in half? Is there kind of like a limit to how much wind shear they can take?
Well, I think I can put it in a better perspective this way. So it's really dependent because you can just imagine it's basically what's flying into our line. So it could be often a tree branch that flies into our line. It could be debris. So it's whatever wind it takes to pick whatever that object is. So that's a little bit more difficult to predict. But what I can share with you is that once we get to about 30 miles per hour winds, our own bucket trucks can't really respond for safety reasons. Our bucket trucks, those buckets that you see going up in the air, they reach anywhere from 40 to 50 feet, and then our transmission buckets actually reach all the way above 100 feet. So the weather is limiting in a lot of ways, even for our response. So it just depends the situation.
I take it that you will go to the areas where the wind has left first. You'll be starting down south and then working your way up as the storm goes away.
Definitely. So we do, like we just talked about, we definitely have to wait for the winds to clear. And then another thing to consider is those flooded areas and, of course, all the debris. So it's just a bunch of factors that you have to take into consideration and how we respond, and things that have to, you know, whether it's the water receding, the clear debris to come through, or the debris clearing to come through, and then and for our trucks to be able to roll in and then start that power restoration. But we are definitely prepared. As you mentioned, 8,000 crews. They are standing